Welcome to AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown. I'm Sonia Baghdadi. Right now, I'm here to guide you through the biggest stories of the day. Here's our pick for number 4.
And liftoff.
Just days after lifting off from Florida, Odysseus is now barreling towards the moon, sending back spectacular pictures of Earth along the way, and is now hours away from the most perilous test yet for the robotic lunar lander, a soft or controlled landing on the surface of the moon.
Go for launch.
Intuitive Machines is trying to pull off something no private company has done. And if successful, it will be the first time an American-made spacecraft has done it since the last Apollo mission in 1972.
We are steely-eyed rocket scientists, but deep down, this is quite an emotional feeling to be here at this position.
Just last month, a Pennsylvania company, Astrobotic Technology, had its first lunar landing mission end in failure. And last year, the Japanese company iSpace and the government of Russia both crashed landers into the moon. So why is it so tough to repeat a feat that was first accomplished more than half a century ago?
That's one small step for man.
The biggest reason is also the most frustratingly terrestrial one: money. NASA's budget at the peak of the Apollo program was more than 4% of all U.S. government spending. Today, NASA's budget is 1/10 the size, just 0.4%, even as NASA attempts to return astronauts to the moon under the Artemis program. In an effort to save money, NASA is outsourcing robotic lunar landings to companies like Intuitive Machines for a fraction of what it cost in the 1960s and 70s.
Do it for $100 million. When in the past, it's been billions of dollars.
Then there's the purely technical challenge of landing a spacecraft in a specific spot, roughly 250,000 miles away.
Some people have likened it to, hitting a golf ball in New York and having it go into a particular hole-in-one in LA.
The distance means there's also a time delay, roughly 3 seconds for signals from mission control rooms on Earth to get to the moon and back.
A lot can go wrong in that time. So when the vehicle is actually landing, it pretty much is on its own.
There we go.
Finally, there's the experience factor, the loss of the Apollo-era expertise that no amount of new technology can make up for.
Simply because somebody else did it in an earlier age doesn't mean that this generation or this organization can do it. These are people doing it for the first time, and there's no substitute for that experience.
We all collectively have to be resilient to failures, and we all have to be helping each other lift up and break down these barriers so that we can begin a lunar economy. That's what this is, a beginning of an emerging economy around the moon.
The Advocate Channel looks at the world through the lens of equality, community, hope, and inclusion. AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
Mr. Jordan, Republicans defiant in the face of a damning indictment, charging an FBI informant of making up a bribery scheme involving President Biden and his son Hunter. Allegations central to their impeachment probe into Biden and his family's business dealings.
But your promotion of a bribery scheme was false.
Not at all. We're looking at the 4 facts I just gave you. Those facts are true.
Was it right to promote a bribery scheme for the president based on that?
Today we're asking questions to James Biden, so we're going to ask him about some of his business relationships with the Chinese.
Was your brother involved in any of your business dealings?
Behind closed doors today, the president's brother, James Biden, told House investigators that the president never had any involvement in his business activities. All as the GOP is at risk of seeing support for the impeachment effort collapse in the House, since they have yet to prove that Biden acted corruptly to assist his family.
I think it's time for Chairman Comer and the Republicans to fold up the circus tent.
Mr. Smirnoff, do you have anything to say?
After 43-year-old Alexander Smirnoff was arrested on charges of lying to the FBI and creating false records, he told the FBI that officials associated with Russian intelligence were involved in the false Biden bribery allegations. And today, Special Counsel David Weiss asked a judge to keep Smirnoff in jail as he awaits trial. Yet it was Smirnoff's allegations that Republicans ran with, citing an FBI form known as a 1023 that contained the unverified accusations.
Even a trusted FBI informant has alleged a bribe to the Biden family.
A key GOP chairman helping lead the probe, even calling it a smoking gun.
We already know the president took bribes from Burisma.
Those allegations are consistent
with a pattern that we've seen in Romania and maybe some other countries.
And Chairman Jim Jordan indicating the informant's allegations were essential.
The most corroborating evidence we have is that 1023 form from this highly credible, confidential human source.
Today, Jordan downplayed that recent remark.
You said the 1023 is the most corroborating piece of information you have.
It corroborates, but it doesn't change those fundamental facts. So now
it's not true.
Republicans today criticizing the FBI and DOJ for previously calling Smirnov credible and paying him for information, as they circulated talking points saying the Biden probe has secured more evidence and was not reliant on Smirnov's testimony, even as they removed a reference to the informant in a letter sent to a witness.
But what evidence do you have of a bribery scheme now?
Back away.
We've got lots of evidence.
The Advocate channel is now streaming live on Amazon Prime in the News app. Watch us there or go to advocatechannel.com. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
That Capital One deal is far from finalized, but consumer experts are already talking about how it could potentially impact households. Meanwhile, credit card debt has been climbing, and so has the number of consumers turning to installment loans, making it key for households to keep track of everything that they owe. This week, Capital One announced a $35.3 billion deal to acquire Discover Financial Services. If approved, more changes could be on the way for Americans who have leaned on credit cards since the pandemic amid inflation and higher interest rates. With collective credit card debt over $1 trillion, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York has also been looking at the boom in buy now, pay later installment loans, which allow consumers to make short-term installment payments on travel, concert tickets, apparel, and more without incurring interest. Their research found Americans who are already facing some financial troubles use these offerings more often, with the majority using them 5 or more times a year. Because of the lack of data and formal regulation around buy now, pay later or BNPL loans, Odysseus Papadimitriou, CEO of the personal finance company Wallet Hub, worries that lenders don't have a comprehensive look at how much a household owes.
A lot of these lenders do not have, even the mainstream lenders, even the credit card companies do not have a good picture of what's going on with an individual customer.
That puts more responsibility on consumers to keep track of what they owe, from credit cards to BNPL. Experian recommends a budgeting app to keep it all in one place, setting up auto pay to avoid missing due dates and paying off BNPL loans early if possible. Meanwhile, Consumer Report says that credit report errors are the top complaint to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, with those complaints more than doubling between 2021 and 2023. That highlights the importance of doing regular credit report checks to spot potentially costly errors early. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
The Advocate channel is your news source for news, entertainment, and trending stories. We're highlighting the advocates in our community. We've now arrived at our #1 story of the day. Take a look.
Fallout intensifies in Alabama after the state Supreme Court ruled that frozen embryos are children. One of the fertility clinics in the state pausing IVF treatments while it evaluates the High Court's decision. The University of Alabama at Birmingham writes, "We are saddened that this will impact our patients' attempt to have a baby through IVF, but we must evaluate the potential that our patients and our physicians could be prosecuted criminally or face punitive damages for following the standard of care for IVF treatments."
It is already leading to fewer babies and fewer grandbabies that are desperately wanted for their parents and grandparents in Alabama. So I think this is the UAB is the first system to stop. I don't think it's going to be the last.
This decision leaves Alabamians struggling with infertility scared.
I've been waiting over 2 years to be pregnant. So there is no world where I could see me stopping this process right now. All we want is to just have the American dream and have a family. And I never thought that this would be something that would be seen as immoral.
Gabrielle Goydell just started the shots necessary with IVF 1 day before Alabama's Supreme Court ruling and is worried her clinic could also pause treatments.
Right now, I'm probably 15 shots in, and my body is bruised and hurt. It's not been great physically. I don't feel the greatest. Financially, we've invested over $20,000 into this process. We paid that again on Thursday, the day before the ruling came out.
Gabrielle and her husband have been trying for 2 years to get pregnant and suffered 3 miscarriages. They were turning to IVF to secure a genetically viable embryo.
And it just feels like it's been months long. And then to be told that there was a possibility that we would have to stop this in the middle of one of the most important parts of it is really terrifying.
Gabrielle is just days away from her egg retrieval and is worried what she will do with her non-viable embryos.
Do I have to keep those on frozen forever? Do I get to let the ones that are genetically abnormal pass naturally? Is my doctor going to be in any sort of danger by doing this procedure to me? There's so many questions in the air right now. We love it here, but it definitely has made us think about whether or not we'll stay here long term. And it wanted for sure we were going to try to transfer our embryos out of Alabama as soon as possible.